Hey, what's going on? It's Donny, and we got to loop you in on what's going on here, Ben. We got Ben from Band of Horses back here joining us. So we asked our listeners to submit questions to you, random stuff about the band, and we asked them to send a question. We use their question. They get something signed by you.
Awesome.
So not too bad of a trade-off. So we're going to start with one from Jeff Nations, all right? And he said, do you remember the first show that you ever played? And then also, do you remember the first show you played with Band of Horses?
Yeah, I remember both.
Yeah.
Let's see. The first show I ever played, actually our drummer Creighton and I, we were in like a kind of a crappy punk band for a second. We had like mostly covers and a couple originals. And we played the North Charleston Skate Park in South Carolina, like on a half pipe. Well, the kids were just kind of skating around and falling down everywhere around us and stuff. But our band was called the Stedmans in tribute to Oprah's boyfriend.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, we were not very good.
How old at the time?
I want to say 17, something like that.
That's exactly perfect.
Yeah. And then and it was pretty fun. I guess fun enough to try another time and start Band of Horses. And
sure.
That first show was at a place called the Sit and Spin. It's like a laundromat / like restaurant and bar in Seattle. I guess in 2004, and we were the first on a 4-band bill. And actually, Creighton, that same dude who's now in Band of Horses, he wasn't then. We opened up for his band. His band was headlining the joint. So. Yeah, that's the two. I got them both.
And do you remember them pretty vividly? Like, I mean, do you remember the nerves? Because especially in the 17-year-old ballpark.
Yeah.
That's throw-up territory, I would assume.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah.
But I remember being a lot more nervous for the Band of Horses one, because with the skate park show, like no one knew who we were, and there was no real pressure there. With the horses thing. I had a record label for a number of years. I'd been in a previous band, like just playing drums and stuff. But there was it was like the pressure of your peer group kind of watching. I remember being real nervous for that one.
Sure. Second question, and this is a really good one, and I wondered this myself. How did you meet and befriend Jay Mascis, who's on the great new track on the new Band of Horses? Right?
Yeah. Well, I was actually... we were on a label called Sub Pop Records out of Seattle, and the general manager is a good friend of mine. But she grew up with Jay in Worcester, Massachusetts, and he was making his first like solo acoustic record, and I guess he was looking for some people to help out with like some singing or something. So he reached out to like Broken Social Scene cats, Kevin Drew. Kurt Vile and I just couldn't believe it. Like through Meg and Jasper at Sub Pop, he asked if I would sing on his record, and I grew up a huge fan and still am of Dinosaur. So we kind of met through that way, and then I didn't even hang out with him. But then we toured with them. Band of Horses did. We opened up a couple shows for them on the West Coast. I remember like Murph, the drummer, coming up and being like, "Thank you so much. We haven't had girls at our shows in 20 years or something like that." But so we got familiar that way, and then with In a Drawer, the song that Jay sings on, I couldn't finish this song. It refused to go easily. It pushed back every chance it got, and I was inspired by actually like looking through a drawer trying to find any semblance of like a memento or something to write about. But I thought, wow, it sounds like a Dinosaur Jr. song title. But they do have one called In a Jar. So I was like, ooh, I'll call up Jay and see if he'll return the favor.
And wow, that's very cool. He's one of those guys, man, that like I feel is just so vastly underrated. I hear his voice and it's iconic to me.
Oh yeah, and you hear his guitar, and yeah, it's distinctly him. He's one of the true kind of like rock gods out there, I think. But yeah, he doesn't get all the credit he deserves.
Absolutely so. All right, so this next question comes from @ZMDSTC. And he says, what was it like playing at the Hollywood Forever Cemetary?
Oh, man. I remember being pretty nervous for that one, too.
It's good to say that you get nervous about these things because
yeah.
I assume sometimes that once you guys get to a certain status that you're like, this is what we do. I have the confidence to go out there and rock it, you know?
No, I forget every time. As soon as the show's over, it's like, oh, that was easy and fun, but usually leading up to it every day, it's just like, oh my God, how can I do this? But I remember that one especially because, you know, Los Angeles or, you know, huge market towns, you have like, especially Los Angeles, like some celebrities show up and stuff like that, and there's a lot more media, you know, there to like maybe review the show or something. And I think our record Infinite Arms had just come out, so it was a bit of an unveiling in that respect. Daryl Hannah was there. I remember being like, dang, what's up? That's Splash, man. But I remember the show ended up like a lot of times, more often times than not, the show ended up being really fun.
Yeah.
I remember we did a Graham Parsons cover, and our piano player and multi-instrumentalist Ryan Monroe, like it was his time to take a solo or whatever in that song. He just hit one piano key over and over and over, and it was the funniest like icebreaker. I think like just kind of, I don't know, all those pressures kind of melted away thanks to the squad.